The town of Bastogne wasn't supposed to matter. A quiet Belgian crossroads, little more than a cluster of stone houses and a church spire. But in December 1944, it became the center of the world when Hitler launched his desperate Ardennes offensive, what we now call the Battle of the Bulge. German tanks and infantry surged west through snow-covered forests. Bastogne sat right in the middle of their path. If the Germans could take it, they would control the vital roads that all other movements depended on. If the Allies held it, the offensive would slow and bleed. By December 20th, German forces had surrounded Bastogne. Inside were around 11,000 men from the U.S. 101st Airborne Division and elements of the 10th Armored Division. Young, mostly citizen soldiers thrown into Europe not long after Normandy. They were now cut off with dwindling supplies, bitter cold that froze rifles and hands, and skies so gray that Allied planes couldn't drop them anything. German propaganda radios mocked them relentlessly. Broadcasts claimed the Americans in Bastogne were freezing, starving, and abandoned by their generals. German officers sent surrender notes across the lines, promising annihilation if the Americans didn't yield. The most famous reply came on December 22nd, when Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, acting commander of the 101st, scribbled a single word: nuts. Still, mockery stung. In Berlin, Nazi newspapers described Bastogne as a trap that would humiliate the Americans. Ordinary German soldiers freezing in the Ardennes saw proof that the Americans were soft, expecting the surrounded airborne division to collapse, but inside Bastogne, collapse was the last thing on anyone's mind. Men dug foxholes in frozen earth, lining them with pine boughs. They stripped ammunition from wrecked vehicles and traded captured German boots for warmer footwear. Medics worked in makeshift cellars, often without morphine, while artillery crews hoarded their last shells. Christmas Eve brought only a single chocolate bar split between 6 men, washed down with melted snow. The paratroopers weren't waiting for surrender, they were waiting for a miracle. And outside the ring, that miracle was being planned. George Patton, already itching for a fight, was preparing to move fast, gamble hard, and prove everyone wrong. On December 19th, Eisenhower summoned Allied commanders to Verdun. The German offensive had punched a 50-mile hole in the lines. Weather grounded Allied air power, and Bastogne was nearly doomed. Most generals spoke in weeks or months when planning a counterattack. Eisenhower asked Patton, "How soon can you turn your army and attack north?" Patton didn't hesitate. In 48 hours, he promised to strike a feat that should have taken a week or more. Behind the bravado was preparation. Weeks before, he'd ordered contingency plans, rehearsed maps, fuel calculations, and bridge crossings. When the Ardennes erupted, he wasn't starting from scratch. Orders rippled through the Third Army like an electric shock. Tanks of the 4th Armored Division, artillery units, and thousands of infantrymen began pivoting north. Engineers repaired bridges, quartermasters scrambled gasoline and winter gear, and Patton toured units personally, spitting fire and reminding them they would be the hammer that cracked the German offensive. The weather in the Ardennes was brutal. Snow fell in thick curtains, blizzards howled, and temperatures plunged so low that fuel froze and rifle bolts locked solid. For the men inside Bastogne, frostbite chewed through fingers and toes. For Patton's advancing army, the same snow was obstacle in disguise, slowing them while hiding their movements from German reconnaissance. By December 23rd, the skies finally cleared. Allied transports roared overhead, parachutes blossoming against white fields as ammunition, rations, and medical supplies drifted down to the starving 101st. Fighter bombers hammered German armor on the roads. Patton's window was open, but it wouldn't stay open long. The road to Bastogne was a nightmare. Snow clogged every curve. Trucks slid into ditches. Tanks threw tracks on icy inclines. Engineers cleared mines and wreckage under fire. Infantry advanced through villages, facing anti-tank guns hidden behind walls, while artillery duels lit up the frozen forests. Still, the momentum built. Patton's insistence on relentless pressure wore the Germans down. Their offensive, once bold, now staggered under continuous attacks. German morale cracked. Fuel shortages grew critical. Panzers were abandoned in the snow. By Christmas night, Patton's lead elements were only a few miles from Bastogne. The paratroopers inside could hear the distant rumble of engines and artillery that wasn't German. On December 26th, tanks of the 37th Tank Battalion punched through the German lines. Sherman tanks rolled into Bastogne, turret hatches open, crews waving to gaunt, mud-covered paratroopers. The siege was broken. The relief of Bastogne was more than a tactical victory, it became a symbol. Newspapers declared it proof that American soldiers could not be broken. It showed the world that even when mocked, surrounded, and nearly starved, the U.S. Army would fight on until relief came. For Patton, it cemented his legend. Pivoting an entire army in winter and striking north within 72 hours became a case study in operational agility. For the Germans, it shattered the myth of American weakness. Bastogne stood as a badge of honor for those who held, and a reminder that speed, daring, and unbreakable will can change the course of war.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.